It's actually pretty sick. And they also don't point out about the Grand Ray Sero, or Seros in general, is that when they attack, they're actual amplified attacks. Therein, whatever the base is of that person, the attack that they're launching for Seros is generally amplified. So, like, if I normally have, let's say, the power of 10, let's just go with a random number, a Sero for let's go with a basic Sero, for example, we'll probably amplify it by 2, right? So then now it hits with the power of 20. So if I'm at 10 and you're 15 and I hit you with the Sero is actually going to do damage, whether I'm weaker or not. Also, this is inaccurate. Characters can fly in Bleach. There are even instances where you can see that it's not just airwalking that they're doing or pushing off of footholds. If you remember just a big example, Ukiura versus Ichigo in Las Noches, when Ichigo is fighting him and he puts on his hollow mask and Ukiura fires a Sero and Ichigo negs it, Ukiura is like, okay, clearly this fight's about to get serious. Let me go to the top of the dome. This is where he releases himself. He flies past Ichigo. You can say he pushes off, but you then can't make the argument that he's not flying because he then cuts a hole through the ceiling of Las Noches. That requires force. If he wasn't flying, he would have stopped his momentum or disrupted it, but that's not what happened. He just flies right through it. So, characters do fly. His full bring abilities are important to know. See, that's how I know they did a very cursory, very surface level examination of Bleach, because if they did, they would know the full bring arc is actually, within the fan base now, it's actually a pretty popular arc because people are starting to appreciate it for what it was trying to do. It didn't get appreciated at the time, but you know. Now, this is an attack also that amplifies thing. Like, Ichigo even mentions that it does this. It absorbs his spirit energy, compresses it down, and then releases it stronger than when it went in. So I'm looking at the tag up top. Ryatsu is the physical force performed when aiming spirit energy to offense or defense. Some Ryatsu pressure auras are so strong they disintegrate ordinary humans with their mere presence. Now that might seem okay, but it's actually very sneaky and wordy. Disintegrate ordinary humans. That isn't true. This can happen to spirits as well. This can happen to regular beings without spirit awareness. This can happen to beings with spirit awareness. Soul crushing or disintegration, soul destruction, is something that can happen to anyone. And it's important to note that. You just have to have the right amount of spirit energy. And apply your spiritual pressure in the correct way. His body heals anyway. He gets gouged twice by black reishi traps from Yuha. And Ichigo heals right after. So these like minor healing factors that Naruto can do, Ichigo can do as well. And then we know that Hollow Ichigo is fully capable of reviving Ichigo. I do think there is a limit, because as in all things in Bleach, it's Reishi versus Reishi, or Ryatsu, however you want to say it. And I think from more ballistic, more high-powered Reishi attacks from like Yuha, Ichigo wouldn't be able to heal from. But it's not like Naruto has that capability. This is a horrible, horrible explanation of Dangai Ichigo. I'm going to let them get to that part. This is a horrible, it's not like a second Bankai. This is something completely different than a second Bankai. This is, I know most of us call it Beyond Bankai, a lot of us call it Fused Bankai, stuff like that. It had different names at the time. But this is just becoming one with your Zanpakuto. And this is where true Shikai Ichigo, what we see in 1,000 Year Blood War, he is literally stronger than this form here. This is a combination of his Soul Reaper, Quincy, and Hollow powers. This isn't just some Bankai. And later they talk about everything getting, we're going to highball and give him 10s across the board. This boost, if you knew anything about the series, you would know that a 10 times boost would have done nothing for Ichigo when it came to fighting Aizen. So this is clearly not a 10 times boost. Also needs to be pointed out, they downplay the Hado 90 feat later, and I'm going to partly address it here. It still does what Aizen says it does. It does distort time and space, but they misrepresent what the ability does. It's not, the Black Coffin is not a black hole crushing ability. That's not what it is. A lot of people think that's what it is, but that's not what it is. This is also one other big flaw. I mentioned earlier about exact calculations, and I think Death Battle and a lot of scalers kind of create for themselves. Bleach is very unique in that Kubo has this thing about how he draws energy. Energy never dissipates outward. Um, Kubo likes to keep his backgrounds intact. But you will always notice in Bleach that attacks explode upward. They don't explode outward. The only times you ever see ability to explode outward and destroy things is when a character has lost control. When a perfect example is Ukiura's Lanza del Relampago. It is one of the, on surface, seemingly one of the most destructive abilities in Bleach because he can't control it. When it lands, it shoots up, but it does the one thing that rarely any other ability in Bleach does. It expands outward and starts destroying things. And Ukiura emphasizes that he can't control it. In Bleach, your spirit energy is condensed to make the attacks more potent. This is why the attacks amplify as much as they do as opposed to some other series. And that's just another thing. I don't think always measuring the exact amount of damage that's done is accurate. Another thing they don't point out, that arm's healed completely when Ichigo's done. Another point of his healing factor. They say they don't understand how Ichigo becomes the Getsuga Tensho himself, and they explain it kind of doesn't make sense, so just roll with it. But it makes a lot of sense. If you look at what Dangai, as we call it, Ichigo is, that's his new form, that's his body. When he goes to Mugetsu, Ichigo's power increases. But if you think about it, it's a brief increase. So clearly it's an attack. So that form really is an attack. Mugetsu is the extension of that. It's basically, think of it as Ichigo's power and body amplifies. That's why he becomes the Getsuga. When he uses Mugetsu, the entirety of his spirit energy, the Hollow, the Quincy, the Shinigami, all of that, everything, goes into one attack, the Mugetsu. That's why he's the Getsuga Tensho now. Because once it's over, just like a Getsuga, once the energy dissipates, it's gone. That's why he is the Getsuga. It's not a difficult concept to get. So they kind of brush over this, but this part is important. Ichigo's full brain clearly isn't as strong as his other forms, and it's really not necessarily, we don't have to talk about it, but it does, like they say, increase his physical output, and that's important. Because now Ichigo swings a regular swing from his Zanpakuto is as strong as an old Getsuga Tensho. And when we look at what his Getsuga Tenshos were doing before, they were able to cut characters like FKT Aizen, a character who could take Hado 96 full on with no damage. An ability Yamamoto clearly thought would damage or at least kill Aizen. Just for, if we're lowballing that then, just to try to put this in perspective. Hado 96 is controlled burst. It is at least city level. That means Ichigo can wipe away a city with a swing in full-bring Shikai form. If his Getsugas are that strong, and his regular swings are that strong, Ichigo can wipe a city off the face of the planet with a swing of his Shikai sword. That is far more physical capability than any Naruto character has shown aside from Might Guy. There's a point later when they do their final analysis about Ichigo and his ability to damage Naruto. Now, they put Ichigo's power output with horrible scaling, but they put it at a certain level. And then they only amplify it by the form, but don't take into the fact that, again, in Bleach, these attacks are amplified. So let's just say the Grand Race-Arrow, I believe, is a magnitude of 10, just like the Cerro Oscurus is. It might be less, it might be just 5. So let's just say 5. Just give it. But Ichigo blends that 5 boost with his Getsuga Tensho, which let's just say works like a regular Cerro, because it kind of is reference that his black Getsuga works like a Cerro. So let's just say it's a base 2. It actually would be closer to 10 because Ukiura points out that his black Getsuga is exactly like the Cerro Oscurus, which is a magnitude of 10. So it should be a stack of 10 and 10, but again, we'll go 5 and 2. Ichigo's now damaging output is higher than what Naruto can take if he were to be hit with either of these attacks. And as they establish later themselves, Ichigo is faster than Naruto, so he would be able to tag him. They say that Naruto is incapable of being hit in his KCM form because he has great field awareness because of his Sage and Kurama abilities. But Naruto is hit several times in that form, not just by Kaguya, but by Madara, and earlier in the war by a not even fully rejuvenated yet Nagato. Also, this is one of the coolest moments in Thousand Year Blood War, like by a mile. Both of these actually. One thing that they forgot to mention about this that I love so much is Ichigo. They calculate Ichigo's speed here, but what they forget to mention is that Ichigo sustained that speed over that distance. So for 9 hours straight, Ichigo was moving at a ridiculous pace. So they say this thing about like his Bankai Tensei Zangetsu increases his physical speed and strength along with his Ryatsu tenfold, which is true. That's the only thing we've ever actually really seen Ichigo get a boost from with Tensa. It's his speed and his Ryatsu. That's really it. But one thing they always forget in their calculations about Bleach, or it actually happens in Dragon Ball as well when they count Dragon Ball characters, they just count the forms, but what they always miss are the in-between fights and the unique thing that happens with characters like Ichigo, or Bleach characters in general, or Dragon Ball characters, is that they get Zenkai boosts. So let's just say, for example, Ichigo and Urohara have a very serious sparring match, right? No matter what, by the end of that day, once Ichigo heals, he has gotten stronger. It might not be by much, but he has gotten stronger. Now, in Ichigo's case, because he has unexplained potential, that's the reason he is a war potential. Ichigo, I think, gets a larger boost than the regular Soul Reaper does from it. Him and Kenpachi are probably very similar in that vein. And the same thing with Dragon Ball characters. Like I said, when they get close to death, or after a serious, significant battle where they are damaged, once they heal, they are automatically stronger. It works the same way with the physical body. When you work out and you work out your muscles, once those fibers tear, when they regrow after you've given the proper amount of water and protein to your body, it's stronger. It's the same concept. All right, so I'm actually going to cover the fight this time, which is really funny to me. Just to kind of give my little thoughts. I didn't cover it last time, but I think this would be fun. Okay, so first off, Ichigo is dual wielding now. The fact that he pulls the smaller blade like out of his coat, I get they're limited with their animation and stuff, but this is just funny to me. Ichigo is just like, I got another one. There's a great point where they're like, Naruto even sees his own soul at one point, and I'm like, yeah, the person getting his soul ripped out should be able to see his own soul. But this actually leads to something more important. I guess I'll address it now right here. In Naruto, when you lose your soul, that is the end all be all. Like when Orochimaru lost the soul to his arms, there was no amount of regeneration that he could have done. He switched bodies, he stole bodies, healed his arms, regenerated his arms, had them cut. Like once the soul is gone, there's no regen anymore. There's nothing. So this is something that needs to get brought up about Naruto versus, or really any character versus Bleach characters. Unless they have some way to regenerate souls, which is a thing, it is possible, because the Hokutoku does it. If you don't have soul regeneration feats, any damage you take is permanent. There is no healing from a gut stab from Ichigo, unless you have the capability to heal your soul, which Naruto characters have never demonstrated the capability to do so. I know this is for entertainment, so they kind of just do things that kind of make the fight more entertaining. But even in this form, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be. Pretty sure it's supposed to be two Shikai Ichigo. If this is, that force is gone with a swing of his Shikai, not without even using Getsuga. That force is gone. And if you use Getsuga, that force and Naruto in it is gone. That was important about talking about the full bring thing. Naruto wouldn't be able to hide from Ichigo. If this were like Soul Society Ichigo, or even FKT, not FKT, yeah, FKT Ichigo still, maybe a little bit. He could probably effectively hide from Ichigo. But Fullbring Ichigo, no. Anything past, like, I want to emphasize like something really important that kind of, it gets overlooked, and it's really easy to overlook it. Ichigo has a hard time finding things in Soul Society, Wikamuno, stuff like that. He has a hard time sensing energy, usually because other people's spiritual pressures are strong, and they're kind of messing with his ability to sense. But when Ichigo shows up to the battlefield in Thousand Year Blood War, he one-shots Shaz Domino, kills him, boom, done, right, gone. Instantaneously, Ichigo locates exactly where Yuha. He knows that Yuha is the strongest on the battlefield. He can sense where everyone's at. He then instantly he throws Tensa Zangetsu, mind you, at Yuha to stop him from moving, and then speeds there almost instant. He speeds across the entirety of Serite to where Yuha is and stops. Like, that is the fruits of Ichigo's training, showing that he can sense where his opponents are and get to them quickly. I know this kind of a big rant on such a little small part of this, but I think it was important to emphasize Ichigo's full brain training. This right here set me off. Naruto would not be able to hit Ichigo like this. He does not have the physical strength to hit Ichigo like this. I don't care what he used his speed and transferred it to power. Ichigo would have rejected that hit. Why is he putting on a mask? I get they're trying to be cool and shit. Why are you putting on a mask? He doesn't have the mask anymore. Ichigo loses the mask in the Fullbring arc. It's integrated to his Bankai. You could actually make the argument now that Ichigo's Bankai doesn't give him a 10 times boost. It probably gives him a 15 boost. Or a 12. Because Ichigo's hollow powers have now mixed with his Shimigami powers. So basically, when you look at Ichigo, his Shikai form, it's basically like he's already wearing a mask. That's what the bones and the tattoos are. It's his Fullbring and his hollow being attached to his body. So basically, Fullbring Shikai Ichigo and Fullbring Bankai Ichigo, which, by the way, has probably the two best designs, probably Ichigo's two best designs in the series. He's basically already wearing a hollow mask. And I think this explains why Ichigo and Ginjo, when fighting in Shikai, they're about the same, but when they go Bankai, there was a massive difference in power. Ichigo dominated Ginjo after that. This is probably the most accurate depiction of what would happen. Ichigo's speed it's going to get pointed out in the assessment at the end, but Ichigo's speed, he's so much faster than Naruto. It's actually kind of ridiculous. He would be able to speed blitz Naruto. Oftentimes, though, they've taken points away from character speed feats if they knew the attack was coming. They don't do that here with Naruto, even though he knows the Light Fang is coming. Like, they never talk about this, and it bothers me. I know they're probably not bringing it up because they feel they don't need to, because it's like, oh, well, if he can know the attack's coming, then it doesn't affect his speed. But if those senses can be taken away, if someone's faster than you, then it does matter. You just have to look at what Ichigo can do. Ichigo is fully capable of killing Yuha with a single sword stroke. Seriously, he can kill Yuha with a single sword stroke, whether it be a Getsuga or not. That means Ichigo is at least on par with Yuha. And I know this partially comes from the fact that they improperly scale how powerful Yuha is, and they say something that really, really irks me. But we'll get to that when we get to it. And then here, he fires the Grand Ray Getsuga Tensho. Oh, they downplay the application of this ability so ridiculously. The fact that they think Naruto can block this is insane to me. Like, I love how they drew this, that this actually did damage to Ichigo. It's almost like they didn't watch the Yami fight. Ichigo's physical strength is ridiculous. Yami is bigger than the Kurama mode, or at least the same size. Ichigo not only is faster than Yami, but when Yami hit him full force, Ichigo blocked it with no difficulty. He literally blocks it, puts on his hollow mask, and smacks Yami into the floor. And this is a really, really weak Ichigo. He had a sleeve of his Shihakusho. Like, this is ridiculous that they think that this would hurt him. Even if you're downplaying Ichigo, how did that hurt him that badly? I know this is just a fun rendition and not really their thoughts, but still, they shouldn't even have done this. And this also stems from a very fundamental misunderstanding of the series. Ichigo would not go to Mugetsu after True Shikai form, because True Shikai is stronger, or as strong as this form. I know they say, again, it's debatable later, but it actually isn't. It's a straightforward statement from Yuha. Also, like, by proxy, they're also stating that Naruto would beat Aizen. Oh, no. If Naruto can survive this with no damage, like he does, and Aizen in his strongest form, not being Thousand Year Blood War, was devastated by this attack, is ridiculous. Sorry, Bleach fans, I know you all really wanted to win, but unfortunately this wasn't it. They don't say stuff like that in other things. That was so funny to me, and I was like, they knew exactly what they were doing. I've seen people agree with this, but I don't. Um, I don't think Naruto had better training. Naruto goes through Sage training, and then he goes through Kurama training, which again is just a way to refine his chakra and to learn how to connect to Kurama. He doesn't actually do any crazy physical training. This is what bothered me so much. Like they're just stating that he has better training. When if you look at Jiraiya isn't even the peak. He's not remotely the peak in Naruto. He's so far back. It's actually pretty embarrassing. We just love Jiraiya because Jiraiya is a great dude, even though he's a pervert. But Kisuke is literally one of the most powerful and intelligent and skilled Soul Reapers in Soul Society. Period. He is a master of Hakudo, Shunpo, Kido, and even Zanjutsu. Like he's attained Bankai, the second fastest person to attain a Bankai than anyone, and his Zanjutsu abilities are such that he can swap with anybody. He has a fantastic relationship with his Zanpakuto because his Benihime abilities are so wide-ranging. Now, I'm not trying to apply to Ichigo. What I'm saying is that this is who Ichigo was taught by. But then he was also trained by Yoriichi. He was also then trained by Zangetsu. He was also then trained by White. He was then also trained by Ginjo, an experienced Soul Reaper, someone who taught him to refine his spirit energy. Like Ichigo had mentors. You could argue he had more mentors than Naruto did. And this is what I mean. I don't think he has better training. I would actually go as far as say they probably had even training. I don't really think you can say one is better than the other, because if we were trying to, like, if I wanted to, I could really be a jerk and just be like, well, technically, Naruto's trainers were regular humans. Ichigo's trainers were people who had literally hundreds of years of experience, especially in combat. Talking about Urahara, talking about his father Ishin, who had been secretly teaching him everything. On top of that, Ichigo is a black belt in karate. I mean, like, if I really want to be a jerk, we could really haggle this out, and I'm pretty sure Ichigo will come out as the better trained fighter in the end. The broader arsenal does go to Naruto, and I think by a mile, but ultimately it all still boils down to they're just the same attack with different elements to them. Naruto isn't Madara. He doesn't have the capability to access jutsu like Majestic Flame and then something like Deep Forest Emergence, something that are like literally on the opposite sides of the spectrum. Naruto doesn't have that. He just basically powers his Rasengan with a new elemental ability. So it's a wide range of abilities, but it's still relatively the same thing. And I addressed the healing factor earlier. He does not have a better healing factor than Ichigo. Now, I need to point this out. This is actually for Bleach fans, and they need to accept this and they need to understand this. Naruto's chakra in general, and Reishi can interact. I'm actually kind of getting annoyed by this. Chakra is spirit energy and physical stamina put into one. That's what it's manifested as. It is still made of spirit energy. It's still spirit energy. Like the fact that that Bleach fans are even saying this is ridiculous to me. Like you're trying to go out of your way to make an argument that doesn't exist. Half of chakra is spirit energy. Therefore, it can, no matter to what degree, it can touch and interact with other spirit beings. They're looking at the physical stamina part and thinking too hard on it because they're like, oh, it's physical stamina, can't touch. But the other component is spirit energy. A one-to-one comparison in Bleach of that is Shunko. Shunko is Hakuda, the physical application of one's spirit body. And Kido, formed spirit energy, spells. It's the same. No Bleach fan should be making this argument that chakra and spirit energy can't contact or can't be used against or are not comparable because they 100% are. Now, if you're going to, I don't know why you would try to make that argument, but if you are, just please stop. It's not. It makes us look bad, and I don't want our side to look bad. We just leave that to their side. Also, Naruto's Senjutsu and Ichigo's Reishi are also comparable in that they access naturally occurring energy around them. This is so funny to me that they put that in there. They have this as a note in this fight and somehow still mess it up in the Madara Aizen video. This literally means they even compare Senjutsu to naturally occurring reishi. That means Aizen should be able to absolutely obliterate Madara. It's in this video. The evidence is in this video, and that's so funny to me. Okay, this is a massive pet peeve of mine. Again, he barely dodged the light speed attack that he knew was coming. I compared it to, in the Madara Aizen video, I compared that same feat to slower characters in earlier arcs. And this Light Fang ability is towards the end of the war. It's towards the end of the war. Like 6 pads, he's got his father's crew. This is the end of the war. But we have a similar feat in FKT, Fate Call Town, where Shinsui goes to attack Stark, and he doesn't think Stark can fire anymore. He thinks the gun has to reload. Stark pulls the trigger. He wasn't expecting the trigger pull at point blank range, and Shinsui dodges it. Sero, and this is another thing. Seros, again, move at light speed, but we know that the speed of Seros increase based on the person's power. Even if you don't want to believe that and just say all Seros move at light speed, that's fine. But we do have things in Bleach called bala. Bala, or bullets, I think it's in Spanish. Bala are compressed versions that move 10 times as fast as a Sero, but they don't hit as hard. So we have characters in Bleach like Kisuke, who easily dodged bala attacks. And when I say easily, I literally mean he knew the attack was coming, got out of the way, put a fake doll in the way of the attack. So at the very least, we have characters like Ichigo and Kisuke, and characters who are faster than both of them, moving at least 10 times faster than the speed of light. Now, I kind of have a problem. I don't like how they got this calculation. I don't think Korinji was talking about Ichibei. He may have been, but I think he was talking. I think he even says average Soul Reaper's Shimpo should get you there in a certain amount of time. I'm pretty sure that's what he says. Could be wrong. But again, this is the problem with trying to get exact calculations for things. You end up looking too hard at the numbers when the evidence isn't in the numbers. Especially here, they have each. They say there's a difference between travel speed and reaction speed here, right? But the reaction speed that they're using for Ichigo is a much slower one. They're using it from Soul Society arc. Ichigo gets way faster than his Soul Society arc counterpart. Also, I love how they don't consider 40% faster than light speed in Naruto's reaction time being significant. They literally say, yeah, point for Ichigo, but it's not significant enough. And I'm like, so this is where they bring in the superb field awareness. This is nonsense. It really is. Naruto has been hit in his Sage mode and Sage of 6 pads mode. Like, they say it's difficult for Ichigo to land a fatal blow. Area of effect, like Shinra Tensei made full contact because it's not really easy to dodge because it's an area of effect ability, which the Getsuga covers a wide area, has already been shown. This was so... I try not to get mad at these things because it is fiction, but this was absolutely offensive. Ichigo has always had a tough time damaging foes who have stronger spiritual energy than him. Do you know why that is? Because that is the rules of Bleach. That is how the universe works. By this logic, Naruto would never be able to damage Ichigo, and he would actually take damage. So if Naruto were to... That scene in the war where Madara uses his fan to block the tail beast bomber Rasengan, and it turns it into wind chakra and blows Naruto back with it, that's literally exactly what would happen here. So they won, and this part was all... Just like this whole last part is horrifyingly bad. Who was it, Seth that said it, that Ichigo got finessed? They truly, really did finesse him here. And this is the problem with trying to talk about multipliers and getting exact numbers. You can't account for the numbers that exist but don't have something attached to them. This is what I'm talking about. How much more powerful did Ichigo get from fighting Grimmjow to after the Ukiura fight? You can't quantify it. You can't say 10 because he has a new form and this and that. Ichigo is so much more powerful after his Vassalori transformation that he's confident he can kill Yami. Yami is a Zero Espada, meaning he is stronger than Ukiura, who Ichigo was 5 minutes ago getting dogged by. It wasn't even close. This kills me that they even tried to quantify this the way they did. The fact that they compare his Hollow Mask to the Gentei Kaijo is actually really bad because, again, because they did not have an expert working on this, they left out the fact that Ichigo is still being nerfed by his Soul Reaper badge, which works like a Gentei Kaijo. So Ichigo is being significantly nerfed here still. Again, they think they're highballing Ichigo here, but they're not. They're trying to say that they're going to apply the full tens boost, even though it's not accurate to each form. Now, this is a problem again because, like what I mentioned earlier, they're missing the fights in between where Ichigo got boost to his power. So he's going to be stronger before he gets that 10 times boost from a new form or new ability or whatnot. They also say they don't count Final Getsuga Tensho here. It's being dismissed because it is an attack. This is, again, something they missed. The attacks themselves are amplified from their base spirit energy. Therefore, the attacks are stronger. Therefore, you can apply the amp number to the total destructive capability. On top of this, they also dismiss the Vassal Lordy, seeing as the same power as the Merged Hollow, which it isn't. It isn't. Oh, goodness. I forgot how bad this video was. Stacking later forms with previous ones, despite having little prior connection, also negates the limits Quincy Zangetsu placed on Ichigo for most of his Shinigami career. Incorrect. Quincy Zangetsu is still holding Ichigo back until 1,000 Year Blood War. On top of that, Ichigo is also still being nerfed by his Soul Reaper badge. Now, this is what they tried to downplay earlier, and it pissed me off. Yuha alluded that true Shikai equals Dangai, but that is debatable. Stacking them all together may overcompensate, but it assures nothing is left out. Incorrect. Again, he did not allude. He actually states that he says, you have finally regained the abilities you had when you defeated Aizen. He is talking about Dangai and Mugetsu Ichigo. Ichigo does not defeat him in any other form, in any other way at no other point in the series. He can only be talking about that moment. This form, the Fullbring form, that people like to say he got his Shinigami powers back, he can't be talking about that because Ichigo already had them. He already fought Yuha with them, and he didn't lose them. His Bankai was just broken, but he still had the power. He is talking about Mugetsu and Dangai Ichigo. Even if you think he isn't, and you think he's talking about a weaker form or something else entirely, it ultimately does not matter because in Bleach, you have to be relative within the ballpark. You just have to be just in it, or just out, or just over it, or really any part over it. You can injure and kill someone. That's how it works. If you're not within their ballpark, if you're not, let's say the highest you can be, like Soul King level characters are 5s. If you're not in 5 at all, where they're like 5.7, 5.8, 5.9, let's just say Yuha's a 5.9, right? And then the actual Soul King's a 6. If you're not in the 5s, if you're not Yamamoto, if you're not Ichigo, if you're not Aizen, you're not hurting them. If you're in the 4s, like let's say Kenpachi, or really low 4s like Byakuya or something like that, you can't touch them. If you attack them, it's going to do damage back to you. So no matter what scaling you try to do with numbers way back then, if you properly scale Yuha, then you've properly scaled Ichigo. No, he was not. And I know that he says, debatable, or close. This fight right here is ridiculously one-sided. I don't know how you can even say they're remotely close. I want to emphasize, Ichigo put that mask on, and he was able to block Ukiura's Seto. He negged it, actually. So it shows that that form is significantly more power than Ukiura's base. The moment Ukiura went into his resurrection, he hit Ichigo with the Seto Scotus, which ripped his mask off and damaged Ichigo significantly. He used a single wing to block a full-powered Getsuga Tensho. He negged it, just like Ichigo negged his Seto, meaning that this Ukiura is significantly at least 5+ times more powerful than Ichigo with the mask on. They're not close in power at all. Ukiura states in his new form, he can destroy the city of Las Noches in the hollow world of Hueco Mundo just by releasing, right? That's just releasing this. That is not counting amped attacks. And they even pointed out in the corner, So they say that's bigger than California, and destroying it in one go needs over 400,000 megatons of TNT. This is just releasing. This is not counting his resurrection. I mean, this is not counting Segunda Etapa's second resurrection. I mean, and that's not counting Lanza del Relampago. That's not counting the Cerro Oscuras again, which is a magnitude of 10. That's not counting a basic Cerro. It's ridiculous. So, like, we plug this in, and they plug it in at Hollow Ichigo, right? And then that is an increase of 1,000,000. That means Ichigo would be able to, just using this basic form, which is incorrect, as I've already stated, because he gets boosts in between these forms, and they incorrectly state that merging, like, Horn of Salvation Ichigo is the combination of his Quincy and his Hollow powers. That's more than a 10 times boost. That's not just putting on a Hollow mask. Even though they claim it's the same. Again, that means Ichigo would be able to destroy Hueco Mundo, the size of California, 1,000,000 times over. Because if anyone knows how big the moon is, coming up with this next Naruto feat, if anyone knows how big the moon is, it's basically the size of the continent of the United States of America. And if you know that, then you would know being able to destroy California 1,000,000 times over would clearly obliterate the moon. Now, Naruto needs to be within the ballpark of Ichigo to damage him, right? See where this goes. So, you can't get the proper scale of the moon. But I recommend watching the Hooded Weeaboo's video, and actually I wrote down the marker because he did a great job explaining this. 826 of his Ichigo is stronger than Death Battle made him look. Check that out, please. He explains why that's insignificant. He just creates a crater from one side of the moon's crust to the other. Just a hole. Nothing significant. He doesn't destroy the whole moon or anything like that. Also note that the explosion didn't burn or destroy his clothes, nor did it burn or destroy that scarf. Didn't hurt Naruto at all. Interesting. I don't know how they measured this. I don't understand how they measured this and got the conclusion they did. It makes no sense. That crater, they're making it seem as if this crater is, for this to even make sense, this crater would have to be more than 1,000,000 times larger than California. It's not. Okay, they said this, and this was made before Baryon mode. What additional forms are they talking about? They're saying that, like, are they trying to say that if he goes into KCM form, that's somehow it amplifies his chakra? That he gets more of it? No. The entirety of his chakra fell out of his body. That's all he has. It's crazy. Oh, goodness. So then, the cutting the moon in half feet. This is where, again, I say trying to give numbers to things can really mess you up. For example, let's say, I probably should have done the math on this beforehand, but let's just say it only takes 1,000,000 degrees. It probably takes less than that, but 1,000,000 degrees to cut through stone. Right? To heat something to 1,000,000 degrees, I could cut through the stone. If I then just lengthen that heat, make the sword longer, I can cut more. But I am not equating the force of the 27 trillion megatons that they're stating. I think the calculations that they did for this, I know they said they factored in that it was a hollow moon, but from what I saw, the numbers that they got were if you were splitting an actual full moon, not a hollow one. Also, the hollowness of the moon, as you can see from the previous shot, it's pretty hollow. Like, the layer, let's see if we can find it. The layer itself, look at that. That's not big at all. The distance from where Naruto is to the other side. Now, again, this is small. This has been shrink. Can't even speak English. This has been shrunken down, so it doesn't give you a good perspective. But the fact that you can still see it like that means that it's not that long. If it was longer, that would be much smaller. This is what I'm saying, where they misunderstood the black hole feat. The containment box itself is what's bending time and space. The Hado ability itself, what it does, the effect, is cuts the opponent. They completely misunderstood this. This would, if they would have paid attention, they even note that they don't know what it does. No crushing, stretching, only cutting, because the box itself is what is locking the person in so that they can't escape. The 90 Hados are forbidden for a reason, because they do things that are considered dangerous to everyone else. Locking Ichigo in a time-space controlled box where he's going to get diced up is what he was going for. That's what the box does. They completely misunderstood what Kurohitsuki does. So it still is a black hole feat. Stronger than anything Naruto's done. Ichigo had to defend against that attack, but Ichigo's arm was fine. Ichigo was still stronger than that form of Aizen because he then slaps away Ultra Fragor, which is a 6 times version of that attack. Ichigo slaps it away with a sword swing. Mind you, Ichigo's sword swings have already now been stated to match what Susanoo's can do and what 8 Gates fighters can do. Just casual sword swings. That doesn't bode well for characters that need amps to do those things. They rightly deduce that Kaguya is not a planet buster. She's definitely not a dimension buster. I don't know how people keep getting this from that. That to destroy her own admittedly small dimension, she still needs the chakra of every person. She needs the tail beast and whatnot. But Yuha 100% is a planet buster because his power extends to controlling the universe. I'm going to put up a picture to show how clearly you know, because they incorrectly get to a conclusion that Yuha is just simply destroying the world through balance. But he actually isn't, because he actually forcibly starts destroying the world in the manga. There's no mention that the world is destabilizing, and if it was, the characters would have went out of their way to make sure the world stayed stable if that was how it was going to be destroyed. Imagine your opponent is trying to kill you by destroying the world around you by creating an imbalance. All you have to do to stop him then is to stop him from stopping the imbalance, right? So you could put rods into reality to stop them, stuff like that. But they don't do that because the threat is no longer about the imbalance of souls. The threat is Yuha himself, who is now the Soul King, the person who controls that imbalance, period. No matter how you slice it, he now has the capability to 100% destroy the universe. His spirit energy allows him to do that. No matter how you try to explain that, that is what he can do. Yuha also now can freely merge and separate the worlds like his father did. I talked about this in one of my live streams about Yuha being clearly universal. You would have to make an argument that the universes, that the world of the living, that Soul Society, that Hueco Mundo were created and pushed into existed beforehand. But you can't because you have no evidence for it. So using Occam's razor, Yuha is universal. It's literally as simple as that. The being separated the universes into 3 separate ones. We are guaranteed that 2 of them are infinite, being the world of the living and Soul Society through the balance of souls. Like I said already, the world of the living has spirit energy, spirit particles, and souls in them, as shown in the Fullbring arc. And Soul Society has stars. It has a sun. To keep these souls and spirit energy in balance, they would have to be equal. If the world of the living is our actual world of the living, which there are references in it, clearly there would have to be the same amount of spirit particles and souls in the other side for it to stay in balance. They're both infinite. He's going to pull them both together. It doesn't make sense to just pull 2 planets together, because again, that means the universes themselves exist separate, which they don't. It's not that difficult. So he says, to sum it up, Ichigo had the speed, they both had the guts, and Naruto had the strength, durability, training, and abilities for days. Ichigo clearly, by a mile, has a strength feat. Like, the fact that they say that he's stronger, but they actually did not have a section for strength. And there's a reason for that, because Naruto doesn't have strength feats. He only has them in Sage mode, where he's throwing large monsters and stuff like that, throwing large boulders, where Ichigo is blocking the fists of gigantic monsters that are bigger, like Yami, who clearly hit harder because they have more spirit energy. Vasto Lord Ichigo is casually throwing around boulders. And then, again, with the wave of their hands, with the swing of their swords, they're changing air pressures, they're creating storms, they're obliterating mountains, yada yada. Things that Naruto characters don't have basic strength in, that they need things like the Susanoo or summons for. The durability, we already talked about that. That was the last thing. The training, talked about that earlier. They have the same amount of training, but Ichigo clearly has more if we're going to talk about experience. Um, Naruto does have more abilities than Ichigo does, but again, it doesn't matter when Ichigo's reishi, his spirit energy, by itself, just in a released form, is more than 1,000,000 times stronger than Naruto's. That's insane that they came to that conclusion. So, that's the video, guys. Like I said, I'm going to edit this. I'm going to post it. Please like and subscribe. Please go watch the Aizen versus Madara video. I hope this one blows up the same because Death Battle has been treating Bleach like crap. I might, because I also do want to cover DC and TV shows and stuff like that as well. I might cover some of the other Death Battles they did with DC characters, ones that I think they got wrong, like Red Hood versus Winter Soldier. All right, thank you, folks, for watching. That was the video. Um, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Gonna definitely edit out that earlier part because it was pretty embarrassing, but I'll take care of that later. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for those who tuned in. Happy New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's. Hopefully the next video starting next year, put this down a bit, shut the shirt. Hopefully next year's videos will be better quality. I'm trying to learn how to do some of these things. Again, shout out to Captain Havoc. Shout out to my wife, my friend Michael, Kyle, everyone who's been helping. Again, thank you to the other YouTubers who've given me advice on how to do certain things. Still have a small following, but hey, man.